Hey, everybody, let me have your attention. All right, so this is how to write a critique about your artwork for The Beast. So I bet you're wondering how you begin. First of all, I need to teach you how to critique a work of art. So art criticism is also called aesthetic judgment. And people think that the term criticism is a negative one because nobody likes to be criticized. But in art history, when we critique a work of art, we're just discussing the work of art. In art history, critiquing works of art is a big part of art history. There are four steps in this process for critiquing a work of art. For art history, we're just going to focus on the first three. We're not going to worry about judging a work of art. So we're going to focus on description, analysis, and interpretation. So description asks the question, what do you see? In with the description, you're going to only give facts. And also, you are not including any opinions of any kind when you are describing your work of art. And you're going to give as many details as you have time for. But basically, what I tell my students is pretend you're talking on the phone to a friend and you're describing a work of art so that they can see with their mind what you see with your eyes. All right, so to describe this artwork, you're only going to focus on what you see with your eyes. You do not talk about things that you think are there or that you feel are there. So, for example, this painting, there is a woman that is sitting down and she has a child on her lap. The woman is wearing a dress and that has vertical stripes on it. The child has a towel wrapped around her waist. Both the woman and the child have fair skin and dark hair. The child has her feet in the basin on the floor, and the woman has one arm wrapped around the child's waist, and the other arm is down touching one of the child's feet. In the lower right-hand corner of this painting, we have a white pitcher with a flower painted on it. On the floor, we have a green carpet with squares on it, and in the background, we have a greenish wallpaper that looks like it has a floral print on it. Now, did you hear how I described this artwork? I'm only talking about the things that I see with my eyes. For analysis, we're going to discuss how the artwork is organized. You're going to discuss the composition of the work of art, and you're going to discuss the elements and principles that are used in the work of art. So this time, you're going to discuss how the artist used line, shape, form, space, color, texture, rhythm, movement, proportion, variety, emphasis, unity, and harmony. You don't need to discuss every element and principle with every artwork, just the ones that apply. So listen carefully as I analyze this artwork and notice how this analysis is different than the description that I did earlier. In this artwork, I see a contrast of light and dark. The lightness of the skin and the darkness of the hair up here creates a contrast that attracts my eye. And then from my eye being attracted here, I'm going to follow the lines. The lines guide my eye down into the lower part of this painting, and it's stopped by the pitcher. And the pitcher guides my eye back across these feet, through the hand, and back up here. So there's this constant motion going around with this this artwork. And it's the lines that really help to guide my eye around here. There's another contrast in this artwork of color. The green carpet and the red wall in the background, green and red are opposite colors. And so we have a contrast of colors back here. So did you hear how my analysis was different than the description? So for interpretation in art history, I want us to focus on the context of the work of art. What is the story behind the artwork? And how do we discuss the history associated with this artwork? There's another way to interpret this artwork, and that's on a more personal focus. In this case, we would discuss why do we think the artist created this artwork? Or what is the mood or the emotion in the artwork? Or what is my connection to this artwork? What does it mean to me? Or what emotions does it represent? Is there a deeper meaning beyond the obvious one, or is there more to it than meets the eye? So, if we're talking in art history, a lot of these objects have stories behind them. So you'll remember the vase that has Achilles and Ajax in it. I told you a very long story about Achilles and his battle at the Trojan War and how his body was recovered by Ajax. So that would give us some context. That would give us some idea behind what this vase is all about. With the painting on the right, that is highly influenced by the revolutions going on in France at the time in the 1800s. So I would definitely discuss the revolutions going on in my interpretation to help give a sense of the history behind what this image means. So if I were to discuss this with an art history context, I would talk maybe about the artist. Her name is Mary Cassatt. She was an American artist, and she was creating this artwork in about the 1870s, which was in the high point of the Impressionist movement in France. And in fact, she did live in France, and she worked alongside of, or worked, in the same time and place as Monet and as Vincent van Gogh, the post-impressionist, and people of that nature. So she's in and among the impressionists of that time. So you can see those impressionist type brushstrokes that are in the background and in the floor there. Also, I can talk about what the role of women was in the 1800s. Here she's taking on a very traditional role of the mother. And I can say that she's a mother because they both have very similar look to each other. They both have light skin and the dark hair, so they could be related. And also the activity that they're in is a very motherly thing to do for a daughter. But women in the 1870s had this very traditional role that they fulfilled. And Mary Cassatt did lots of paintings of women and children. So she was painting women in this traditional role. I could interpret this on a more personal level. So I can say that this painting exudes, or it shows the feeling of love, a mother's love for her daughter. It's a very tender moment that we are looking at here. And also a mother is caring for her daughter, looking after her and giving her a bath. And I can definitely relate to this because when my daughters were this age, this was a very common thing in my house. Either I or my wife was giving them a bath in the evenings. And so this is a very common thing to have happen. So this painting gives a strong feeling of maternal love. So once you understand how to critique a work of art, the next thing that you need to know about is how you need to know about the elements and the principles. Now, I have not taught you any of the elements and principles. I may have mentioned it in this artwork or that artwork, but it has not been a big part of our curriculum so far. So what I want you guys to do is in D2L for this assignment, there is a link to my Elements and Principles playlist on my YouTube channel. So you'll click on that and you'll go and you'll start watching these videos about the elements and the principles. As you watch these, I may talk about your artwork, I may not talk about your artwork, but as you watch these, think about how these elements and these principles apply to your artwork. Also, I have divided up, I've made different videos for semester 1 artworks and semester 2 artworks. Semester 1 is 1303, semester 2 is 1304. So be aware that you're in the right semester as you're watching these videos. Now, if your artwork is a sculpture, concentrate on form, texture, shape, line, movement, rhythm, proportion, and unity. If your artwork is a painting or a drawing, concentrate on color, shape, form, space, line, rhythm, value, and contrast. So you'll be watching these videos for the elements and the principles, and then you'll be ready to critique your artwork and you're going to type it out. It should be about 2 pages long. and you're going to include a photograph of your chosen beast artwork with it. So the about a third of it should be describing, and describing your artwork should be the easiest thing to do. You're just talking about what is there that you see with your eyes. However, this is the part where most students get it wrong. They're giving opinions, they're talking about grand themes. No, just describe what you see with your eyes. If your eyes don't see it, don't put it in description. The next part, the next third should be your analysis. So you need to know a lot about the elements and the principles. So be sure to watch those videos. And you're going to discuss the elements and principles that apply to your artwork only. And then finally, this is where you need to do some research for your artwork. So try to find your artwork in the textbook or in Smart History or in the Art Story or on YouTube, and get some information about the context of your artwork, maybe the story that's behind it, maybe the context of the history surrounding your artwork. But this is where you'll put that information in. And so, most of what I do in class is I'm interpreting the artwork. I'm giving you the context of these things. So basically, you're doing what I do normally in class. And as always, your titles will be in italics. The first time you mention your artwork, you need to put a figure 1 after it. Every time you mention it after that, you don't need to put a figure 1 after it. It is 2 pages, no footnotes on this assignment, no bibliography on this assignment, no photos of your notes on this assignment, and no video is necessary with this assignment. The instructions for this assignment are in D2L. There is an example for this assignment for you to look at in D2L, and there is a template for you to use in D2L. Please use the template. Just all you have to do is download it and change the words. You don't have to format it or anything like that. It's all there for you. All right, so like I've said before, all right, it's going to look professional, but it will not sound professional. It's going to look formal, but not sound formal. Just like this guy, he's all business up top, but down below, he's ready for the beach or he's ready to take a nap. And so I want it to look nice and professional, but when I read it, I should hear your voice. And also, no intro or conclusion. Just be yourself. All right, and then grading, I've been over this before. I'll go over it again. So if you turn in the assignment and there's no mistakes, that's 100. And also remember, at this point, with these previews, I'm only skimming through it. I'm really looking for formatting errors to make it easier for me to read when you submit it with the Beast. Just because I don't catch any grammar errors now doesn't mean I'm not going to catch it when I grade the Beast. So try your best so that when I do grade the Beast and I'm reading it thoroughly, that I don't score low because of bad grammar and things of that nature. If you turn it in on time with mistakes, and I'll make corrections and I'll give you a 50, and then so the corrections would look like something like this. This allows you to correct these things by the time you turn it in with the final Beast, and that way you'll have a higher score and it'll be easier for me to read. If you show me that evidence that you saw the corrections, then I will change that 50 into 100. It could be a screenshot of the corrections or a selfie with you in the corrections, even just a picture of the corrections with a thumbs up. I've even started getting people just messaging me in D2L in the assignment. They upload the document with the corrections, and they wrote a note that says, "Mr. Reese, I saw your corrections." That alone is enough for me to change it to 100. All right. I don't need to see it again unless you really want me to see it. You'd say, "Mr. Reese, can you please look at this again and make sure it's all right?" I'd be happy to, but I don't really need to see it again. Next time I see it will be when you turn in the final Beast. Turning it in late is a 0.01. However, it's good to turn it in late because I'll still make those corrections. I'd happy to do that so that when you turn in your final Beast, that you will have all those corrections made and you'll get a higher score. And also that 0.01, as I'm looking through the grade book, I can see the students that are trying. They're still turning in stuff, even though it's late, and that just gives me a higher opinion of you if there's anything that should come up later on in the semester. And then not turning it in is a 0. I've already gone over this with you. I don't need to go over it again. Any questions about this assignment, about the style assignment?